The Arosa podcast is brought to you by Triumph Protective Coatings, which is a flooring company specializing in concrete polish, epoxy flooring systems, micro cement, and self leveling concrete. They speak Spanish and they offer awesome customer service. And you could reach them on Instagram, Triumph underscore coatings, looking them up on Facebook, Triumph Protective Coatings. You can email them, triumphprotectivecoatings at gmail.com. You can call them or text them at 666-436-4702. And if you use promo code ARROWSUP, you get 15% off on your next flooring project. So reach out to them and they will take care of all your flooring needs. There's a podcast on this Tuesday edition of the pod. Solo one today. I am talking about community today, the importance of community, and I think the two biggest mindsets you get in people, in churches, everywhere, really. It's either the selfish, in it for yourself, or the community. We need people, and it's an important topic because we find ourselves more and more isolated from everyone. And we can blame technology, we can blame social media, but I talk about that. So that's the pod today, and so hopefully you enjoy it. And I finish with some Rafa Marquez and Vasco Aguirre thoughts. So stay tuned for those. That's the pod today. Hopefully enjoy it. Here we go. Okay, welcome to the pod. So we have in our life this very, very interesting idea. And I say in our life because everybody goes through it. Everybody makes up their mind as to how their life is going to be and who their life will be lived with. And that is almost as important as anything else. Who is going to live with you and who are you going to allow to be part of your life is one of the most important questions that we end up answering without really answering. And we answer it by letting people be in our life, by talking to the people we want to talk to, by not talking to the people we don't want to as much. And this forms everything else around us, because if you have strong friendships and you have strong relationships, and this is not just for married or unmarried people, this is just across the board. And we end up creating for ourselves an ideology of the world based on the community we have. And if you have a good community, then you end up believing and leaning on people for life, and not leaning in a burdensome way, not like you can't do anything for yourself, not like you're bugging people, but you end up enjoying life with others. You want to incorporate people in what you're doing. And that comes from strong community. That comes from healthy community, because you end up seeing the value of others in your life, whether it's their input, whether it's their advice, whether it's just them, and you just see how much better it makes you. And when you don't have strong community, what you end up getting is isolation, and you get people that would rather be by themselves, people that don't seek help, and not because they have no one to seek help from, but because they don't feel like they will be supported if they do. And I am a big believer in community, because I think without community, we are nothing. I think that if we are not living in community, then we will eventually fall apart, because I believe we have been created for community. And it's why friendships are so important. It's why family is so important. And I think it's why I've always sought to be part of community, whether friendships, whether in family, and in everything, just seeking to be part of a group, seeking to be in friendships, because I'm better for it. And I think the people that are around me are better for it. And I think overall we're better for it. And when you end up getting, so you get like these two kind of thoughts. You get like selfish, self-centered point of view of it's all about me and I'm going to do what's best for me. And I am, it's almost like the Terrell Owens, I love me some me. And this ideology you get not just with people in the church, but you get and people out of the church, but you get this with people in the church, this idea that it's all about you and it's for your convenience and it's what makes you feel better. It's what makes you feel loved or accepted, or it's all about you. And you get this idea from people because of bad community. And so therefore you begin to look at your friendships and all your relationships from the viewpoint of how can they help me? How can they benefit me? And this is where you get this idea of people who are like, oh, I used to talk to this person, but I don't talk to them anymore because I was the only one reaching out. I was the only one that was doing whatever. And you get this phrase that gets thrown around, and it's this idea of friendship is a two-way street. And in a certain sense, it is, but you're not doing the same thing. And I think a lot of times we are expecting something that may be unfair to expect. Like if you are the person that's always reaching out, it's maybe not, and the person is always reacting to you reaching out. It doesn't mean you are a better friend because you're reaching out. It just probably, it might be come down to personality. Your personality is such that you are more comfortable reaching out. You're more comfortable making the first point of contact. But it doesn't mean that because a person doesn't reach out, it doesn't make them less of a friend. It doesn't make them bad friends. I think it just, we're all created equal. We're all created differently. Obviously, we're all equal, but we're all created differently with different strengths. And I think whenever we cut people off because of that, or whenever we diminish a friendship because of that, I think we're robbing ourselves of having community with those people. And you begin to walk and live in this world where you only want people that are like you, that think like you, that act like you, that behave like you, that have the same characteristics of you. And when you start to do that, you are in danger of creating very selfish, very self-centered, very convenient community. Because the beauty of community is that it makes you better because you have all these people in your life that think differently, that see the world differently, that will help you gain insight into places that you never would have gained insight because you would have never thought about it in the way they think about it. And you would have never had the perspective of a different point of view if all you have is people that think like you. And even biblically, I think that there is a sense of where that gets lost, where we only want to talk to those that are that think like we do, that approach the scriptures that we do. And now I'm not talking about theologically. I'm not talking about like the doctrinal views and the essentials. I'm not talking about that, because I think that has to be, those are, there's certain non-negotiables as a Christian that you need to believe in. You need to see the world this way, or else you're not a Christian. I'm talking about just the approach to God. For example, say you want to study the scriptures and you want to read the word, and you are better and more comfortable reading it, writing notes, writing questions, and that's how you read the Bible. That's how you read scripture. And another person is just, they're maybe better versed, and they can just open the Bible and they can just go and have thoughts, and they want to just go on the fly. The person who takes notes is not less or more spiritual than the person that doesn't take notes. We're just different. But if we are able to have both people in community, you're able to learn from the other person, because the person that doesn't take notes can say, you know what, it might be a good idea to write some things down. It might be a good idea to have a pen with me, or a pencil, to mark things down, write something down that maybe I think of that I can go back to. And the person that is super structured with the reading can learn from the person that is not so structured and say, you know what, like, I don't need to understand everything. I don't need to constantly be in a moment of like, oh man, where's my pencil? I can't study the Bible without a pencil. I can just open and go and read and trust that God is going to teach me. And I think so many times with our personality types, we want to box out those that are not like us, those that act differently than us, those that behave differently than us. And it creates a very unbalanced life for us, because we are not experiencing the fullness of community. Another way that community is very helpful is that in community you get challenged. If you are talking about something you're going through and you want to, and it's starting to sound more like a pity party, if you have community, someone can tell you, hey, you know what, that's not that big of a deal. And you know what, like, this is going to be fine. And I think you need to not be so negative about this. Or, you know what, I think you need to trust the Lord in this. Or, you know what, like, I think you just need to get up and keep going. But if you're stuck with people that just want to tell you what you want to hear, people that just want to baby you, people that are too afraid to tell you, good or bad, because sometimes someone may be too afraid to tell you, hey, you know what, I think you're doing pretty good. I think you should keep going, because maybe you're talking, I don't know, thoughts about doubt. Maybe you just started a business and you're saying, you know what, like, I don't know, like, this is scary. I don't know if I should keep going. And maybe you're really good at it, and maybe you're crushing it, but you can't see it. And maybe the people in your life are too afraid to say, hey, you know what, I think you need to keep going and kind of persevere in this. I know it's scary, but I think you're going to be successful if you keep going. And when we don't have the people in our life that are willing and able, because those two things are very crucial in community. The willingness to say something, the willingness to get somebody upset, the willingness to get somebody uncomfortable with what you're going to say, the willingness to put yourself out there, the willingness to put your friendship out there and say, hey, like, I know this might hurt. I know this might make you feel uncomfortable. And again, this isn't just negative. This is positive too, because I think sometimes it's as hard to say something positive or encouraging as it is to say something negative. And I think it's important to have the willingness to say those things. If you're talking to a friend, or you have friendships or relationships with people you love that like can't have children, for example, which is a very sensitive topic. It's a very hurtful topic, and it's a topic that doesn't get talked about enough and doesn't get brought up enough because it's taboo. And when you're talking to couples that want kids, are trying to have kids, haven't been able to have kids, it becomes a sore topic. And you sometimes have to be willing to say, hey, you know what? Like, I know things look bleak. I know it's hard to believe that this may happen, but don't lose hope. Don't lose the joy. Don't lose the spirit of faith to keep believing that God will bless you with that. Because I think sometimes it's easier to tell somebody, you know what, like, even if you don't have kids, God is still good and your marriage is still complete, which is true. And but I think so many times it's so much easier to say that than it is to say, hey, I know you don't want to hear this right now, and I know that this is probably the last thing on your mind, but don't lose hope. Keep believing. And that you have to be willing to say. And in good, strong, fruitful, faithful, biblical community, that happens where you're willing to say that. And so the first thing is the willingness. Are you willing to say the difficult thing? Are you willing to put yourself out there and say what others may not be willing to say? Say what the other person doesn't want to hear. And I think of the scriptures where the Bible says in Proverbs 27:6, where it's talking about just friendship. And I'll read it from the ESV. And it says, here, let me find it right here. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. And they're faithful because those wounds are for the better. Those wounds feel like our wounds in the moment, but in time they become what makes us better. And they're faithful because of the willingness. The friend is willing to say that. The friend is willing to make you uncomfortable with encouragement or, with discouragement. Like, hey, you know what? Like, you're wrong here. You know what? Like, the way you took the way you're expressing yourself here, it's not good. And so there's a willingness. And then there's the ability to do it. And the ability to do it is crucial, because whenever you think of the willingness, maybe you're willing to do it. Maybe you're not able to. Now, what does that mean? Like, you're not able to speak? You don't hold the vocabulary to say that? No. But I think it's the ability to understand that what you say holds weight, and what you say needs to be said with love. Now, it doesn't mean it needs to be lying, because I think sometimes that gets taken wrongly, where Ephesians 4:15 says, but speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in all aspects into him who is the head, even Christ. So I think the willingness and the ability to speak things in love, the ability to build someone up when you're talking to them. And when you're in community, those things happen, where the willingness sometimes may cause wounds, sometimes may be hurtful, just because the person doesn't want to hear it. Sometimes somebody will tell you something, you're like, I wasn't prepared to hear that. And it hurts. You might be hurt for a little bit. And the ability is the ability to say those things in love, where in the moment it doesn't feel loving. And I think that's sometimes what gets confused, because just because you didn't feel love in the moment, it doesn't mean it wasn't loving. And I think we need to understand that saying the truth in love does not mean you don't say the truth. It means you say it with the intention, with the motive to help, to be there, to walk the whole way with the person, with whatever they're going through. Because saying something truth without love is leaving somebody with whatever they have. It's, hey, this is your problem. You got to fix it. And that's being truthful, but that's not being loving. Love, the truth and love is, hey, here's the truth about the situation, your circumstance. This is the truth about your advice, the advice you're asking. This is the truth. Now, this is how we're going to get through it. I'm here to walk with you the entire way. And that's loving. And in community, that's what takes place. Now, when you don't have community, when you don't want community, then you kind of close yourself up and you do everything for you. And if it benefits you, you do it. And if it doesn't, then you don't do it. And that's such a poisonous way to live, because you'll find yourself trapped. You'll find yourself without joy, without peace, without love. You'll find yourself not being able to get through things. And you'll begin to create this idea that this is my life and I got to kind of just have to suck it up and go. And it's the furthest thing from the truth, because the beauty of community is that in community you find grace. In community you find that, man, I could make mistakes. The community will always take me. The community will always encourage me. The community will always correct me, and it's good. The beauty of grace is that the saying, "This is my bed, and I will, I've made my bed. I got to lay in it." No, you don't. You've made your bed, and guess what? You can just leave that bed. That's the whole point of grace. That's the whole point of it, where you are giving a brand new chance. Now, are you going to have consequences for what you did? Of course. Are you going to feel a certain type of way? Yeah. Paul, his whole life, lived with this whole notion of, I am the chief of sinners. And I'm sure when he said it, when he reads it, when we read it now, at least me, when I read it, I'm like, come on, Paul, what a self-deprecation here. Come on, what are you talking about? You are the chief of sinners? You wrote more than half of the New Testament. You're the chief of sinners? Let's be real. But he carried that. What he did before Christ, he carried that his whole life. And that may happen. You may feel guilty for a while. You may walk and be like, I can't believe I did that. You may second guess yourself for a little bit. You may have to gain people's trust, depending on, what the consequence of whatever it is. But the thing is, you can start new. You can start fresh. You can return. I think one of the things that gets lost in the story of the prodigal son wasn't that he sent an apology to his dad, is that he came back and he was accepted to the fold, and he kept living. He started fresh back in the old house where he came out of. And I think that's sometimes what we need. Sometimes we just got to go back. You got to go back. You got to restart. And sometimes sometimes that's what you need. But that is only done, and it's only possible in community. And I think it's why it's so important. It's why we have to be super intentional about the community we create. Because the community we create is how we're going to live our life. If you are creating a community of selfishness, a community where you're only there for people, or you're only there for the people that you want to be there for, you're only there for people when you want to be there for them, then that's the community you're creating, because that's where you're going to get back from that community. And eventually you will find yourselves alone, because that type of community is very fickle. And if you find only community with those that think like you, those that don't make you feel comfortable, those that are not able and willing to say the truth, then you'll find yourself with community that's very shallow. Community that's good for watching movies and playing board games, but not good for walking life, and not good for doing life, and not good for challenging you, and not good for you to share what you're going through, because it's shallow, and they're gonna offer very little give anything to you. And I think it's why we need to push community so much, because without community we fold. And you see this in every aspect of life. You'll hear successful athletes, business people talk about what made them so successful, and it's always others. This person made me better. You hear someone like Michael Jordan talk about his success and his realization that, man, I got here because I got Phil Jackson, and to the point where he said, I don't want to play for another coach. At the peak, or the tail end, maybe not the peak, where they were winning another three-peat, Jordan said, I'm not going to come back and defend this title if Phil Jackson's not my coach. And that's because he understood that's community. That's my guy. I'm not going to win with anybody else. And you see that Tom Brady, his community of teammates, and it's so important. It's so crucial to the life of these people that are uber successful, but it's also crucial to the rest of us that are not in those situations. Find community, seek community, create community with those that are seeking truth, with those that are speaking truth, with those that are unafraid to tell you the difficult thing. And reach out. And I think that's the final thing to this is there is an active mentality, active way of life that we have to be. We have to be willing to be active. We have to be willing to answer those text messages. Maybe you're not super good at reaching out, but when somebody reaches out, being willing to say, hey, I'm here. Hey, this is what's happening. Hey, this is what's going on. And the willingness to open up, the willingness to share, the willingness to receive. Because all those things create community. All those things create life. And the bigger the community, the stronger the community, the stronger our life is, the better our life is. And I think it's just crucial. So I want to hit on this just because it's something I've been thinking about, and I think it's crucial to our life. And as we get into the next few months with Joe Biden announcing that he's not going to run for president, Kamala Harris, who seems to be, she's going to be the Democratic nominee for president. And we're going to just see this great division in the country. From, if you're a Republican, you're going all in on Trump. And if you're a Democrat, you're going all in on Kamala, and you're going to hate the other side. And you're going to see during this cycle what we've seen since like 2016, where people don't listen to each other anymore. People aren't taking into consideration their what people are saying, and they are just waiting for their turn to speak. They're not listening, and therefore it creates this great division, and it's why we see a lack of community in the world. Because if you're a Democrat, you only want to talk to Democrats, and if you're a certain kind of Democrat, you only want to speak to those that are certain kind of Democrats like you. And the same thing with the Republicans. If you're a Republican, you only want to talk to Republicans because you think that all Democrats are this, and if you're Democrat, you think all Republicans are like this. And it's the death of a nation. It's the death of community. And as a Christian, I stand on the side, and I hope the church doesn't get more involved, because the church is very much involved with all this, and the church should get out of the way, and the church should seek community with each other, and the church should be aligned with the things of God and understand that the Bible calls us to be united, not divided, to be united, and to seek unity in the Lord at all costs. So here's my final thought. Mexico has announced that Rafa Marquez and Vasco Javier Aguirre are going to be the coaches. And El Vasco is taking over for the third time. And he's going to bring with him older players because he likes older players. So you're probably going to see the return of Memo and Chucky and Henry Martin and Raul Jimenez probably. And you're going to see this kind of like return to the old guard because he feels more comfortable with the old guard. Is that the way to go? I don't know. I did a whole thing on how to fix Mexican soccer. And again, I stand on that. Fixing soccer does not mean fixing the national team. If you want to fix Mexican soccer, you start with the federation, and then you go to the league, and then the national team will fix itself because of those other fixes. I do like that Rafa Marquez is set to be the coach in 2030. I do like that. I think he has potential to be one of Mexico's best coaches just because his temperament, his experience, he's had and learned the game very differently. He's one of the very few Mexicans, if not the only Mexican, who was willing to stick it out in Europe for as long as he did, where he was not afraid of competition. He was not afraid to leave home. He was not afraid to be uncomfortable in a different country. And he was not afraid to change his game. And I think that's going to do him very well with the team. And I think he's going to be a good voice for a bunch of these younger players to listen to. So I'm excited for him in 2030. I think the 2026 project is, it is what it is. I'm not excited for 2026, to be honest with you, because it's over. We're going to make the World Cup. We're going to get our 3 games, maybe 4, and that'll be it. I'm excited for 2030, and I'm looking forward to see the type of team that Rafa Marquez puts together. And I'm also hoping that Vasco gives some of these young guys a legitimate chance. I'm hoping Santi gets a real chance, and I hope Santi's able to capitalize on his chances he gets. I hope that we start to see this kind of new and old revolution of these players. But we'll see how it all looks in September when Mexico plays Canada, and it's going to be Vasco's first first in terms of this iteration of the team, but third time at the helm. So we'll see. Jimmy wasn't given a fair chance, but it is what it is. When you're given a chance like that, you almost have to be ready, even if you're not. And he wasn't ready, and that's unfortunate for him. But that's it. That's the final thought. Excited for Mexico 2030. It looks like Canelo's going to fight Berlanga, but I'll talk with David about that in the next pod. But anyway, that's the pod. Build community, seek community, because without community, we're nothing, and we're going to fold if we don't have it. So thank you for listening. Until next time, that's the Arizona Podcast. The Arizona Podcast was brought to you by Triumph Protective Coatings. You can find Triumph Protective Coatings on Instagram, Triumph_Coatings. You can call them or text them 626-436-4702. They offer awesome customer service, and they do amazing work. So reach out to them for your next project, and if you use promo code ARROWSUP, you get 15% off your next order. So reach out to them. They'll take care of you. Triumph Protective Coatings. That's the pod. Thank you to Angel. Thank you to Triumph. There's a podcast. You can listen to it anywhere you get your podcast. So please rate, review, and subscribe. And share it. Why not? Tell people about this podcast. On Instagram, at ArrowsUp. YouTube, ArrowsUp Podcast YouTube channel. And I will have another pod for you on Thursday with David. Boxing. We gotta talk about boxing. Looks like Canelo's gonna fight Berlanga. It looks like Benavidez is gonna go up to 175. Or stay at 175. It seems like that dream's over. Canelo, Benavidez. We'll talk about it Thursday. And the Sox got swept in LA, and they finally won one today in Colorado. It's weird to see them play so early. Oh, so late, I mean. I'm so used to seeing them play late. Early. And now they're playing late because they're in the West Coast. But anyway, that's the pod. Thank you for listening. I will talk to you again later this week. And enjoy the Olympics as they start later this week. And enjoy baseball. Enjoy the summer. You live in Southern California. It's really hot. We have a pool. You're lucky. Invite your boy. I'll talk to you later. Let's go Sox.